Welcome to the Overdrive Outdoors podcast.
Your source for everything outdoors.
Let's kick it into overdrive.
Overdrive Outdoors podcast brought to you by Predator Hunter Outdoors. Whether you are new to predator hunting or looking to upgrade your equipment, Predator Hunter Outdoors will have you hunting after the sun goes down. Carrying a full line of lights, night vision, and thermal optics, along with tripods, calls, mounting systems, and more, check them out at www.predatorhunteroutdoors.com or on Facebook at Predator Hunter Outdoors. Use promo code OVERDRIVE2021 for 20% off your order. Want to lengthen your time in the field and shorten your scouting time? Not only does the HuntWise app show you property boundaries, landowners' names, and in some cases even their phone number, but using the app will show you the wind direction on the map of the place you want to hunt. And the HuntCast feature shows peak movement times for various species, including predators. Get the HuntWise app at www.huntwise.com, the Google Play Store, or the Apple App Store, for only $59.99 a year for Pro or $119.99 a year for Elite. Use promo code OVERDRIVE20 for 20% off an annual membership. Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today we have with us special guest Mitcheal McEachern. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mitchell's another fellow Michigan predator hunter, and he is also owner, correct?
Yep.
Of FPS Archery you're right by Traverse City, correct?
We're in Cadillac.
Cadillac. Okay. That's close to Traverse City as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And you've been involved with FPS Archery for how long now?
My business partner and I, Jay, purchased the store August 21st, 2019.
Oh, okay. So just over 2 years?
Yeah, but we've both, between the two of us, worked in various shops for quite some time.
So what shops did you work in prior to getting into FPS?
Field and Stream down in Kalamazoo before it was Sportsman's, DNR Sports, Shooters in Traverse City, and then decided I didn't like working for other people.
So you've actually spent a fair amount of time in that industry.
Oh, yeah.
How long were you at the other places? I mean, like combined?
6-7-ish years.
Oh, okay. So you have plenty of background in it. Plus, you use a lot of this stuff. So,
Yep.
Kind of like myself, you can give good recommendations based off what you've actually seen in the field and what
Yep.
feedback you get from your customers. So, tell us about FPS Archery. What all do you guys offer?
So when we purchased the store, we brought in firearms. It was primarily an archery shop. We brought in firearms. We have our 07 FFL, which is the manufacturer's license. And then we got our SOT for selling NFA items like suppressors. So we are still 70%-ish bows and archery, but we're continuing to expand our firearm portion of it as we find more room.
Now you guys do service as well or just sales?
We do some service. There's very few things, I'm limited to just based off space. Would I like to be able to drill and tap receivers or thread barrels? I would, but I don't have the space in the current building we're in for equipment such as that.
I feel your pain on that one. I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah.
So do you have like a archery pro staff on hand to do service for bows, or is that something you do yourself, or does Jay do that?
There's just the two of us. It's just
Okay.
Jay and I. We both do all the tuning on bows and setup, and then I focus on pretty much the gun portion as well.
Okay.
We build our own strings and cables with our string jig that's back here. got a couple bows on it right now, but we have our own string jig that we build our own bows off of. You would attach one loop end here. Actually, let me. You attach one loop end here, and then the other loop end here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can spin the jig, and it will allow us to serve and build the strings. So we build all of our own strings. We pretty much do everything in house, and then I also focus on the gun portion.
Do you guys carry a variety of brands then?
For archery,
Yeah.
yeah. So I have for compound bows, we sell Hoyt, Matthews, PSE, Bowtech, and Oneida.
I didn't even know Oneida was still around. That's an old company.
Yeah, it's owned by Bass Pro Shops now, but they still do make a few lines of bows. Mainly the one that we carry from Oneida is their bow fishing bow. There's a pretty large bow fishing industry up here.
Okay. In terms of firearms, I'm assuming you guys probably carry rifles, shotguns, handguns, the usual, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, when we started, we had the decision that we didn't want to be like every other shop. We didn't want people to walk in here and be able to buy the same stuff you could go buy in Dunham's or Gander Mountain or anything like that. So we have kind of a good, better, best philosophy for what we carry. Right now we're a little more expanded on our inventory, but our main focus is bolt guns, ARs. We do have some shotgun stuff, but we don't have the hugest shotgun industry up here. Carry a lot of Tikas and Bergaras, and Tika, Bergara have some SIG bolt actions and SIG ARs. Bergara is one of our favorites. Their HMR is really nice. We do have a couple Christensen arms like their MPP pistol bolt actions. Handguns is pretty much just generally anything, but we do pretty much just specialize in ARs, and the ARs we do have, we don't really carry too much of the lower end stuff.
Now, what's availability been like for you guys to keep inventory on hand? I mean, I know ARs are starting to come back and be a little bit better, but man, a lot of the other stuff is still pretty sketchy.
There's, it was kind of the worst time possible for us trying to get into firearms. We got into firearms, and then all this COVID stuff hit, and we had people coming in left and right asking if we could order firearms in. It's like, no, sorry. I have zero avenues whatsoever of getting it. And even if I was a direct dealer for them, you're probably 7, 8, 9 months to over a year out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple companies we've tried to become direct dealers from. I had one guy who wanted to order 9 bolt guns from us from one company. And they said, yeah, we could take you on as a dealer and put in this order, but you're looking over a year until you get those firearms.
It's crazy. I mean, I know I've had 2 different Ruger revolvers on order for over a year. And I know I have one of the new Savage Impulses on order for a guy that's going on at least a year, if not longer. I'm sure you get it too. Everyone asks why. Why is it so bad? So what's your take on that?
I would say one thing is materials. There's a lot of reasons why we can't get stuff, and what we ask companies on, why are the lead times so long? And they say materials. They're waiting on parts. And the other thing would be, I would have to say, is just the the lockdown stuff that happened throughout most of these states was right during high manufacturing periods. And then when those warehouses and manufacturing facilities were allowed to open back up, bless you,
Thank you.
they had to go back to a lean manufacturing design. So they were only allowed to bring in 50% capacity of their employees to make sure that their manufacturing facilities weren't too congested, and it just put things way behind.
And that's kind of what I figured as well. I mean, I haven't actually reached out to any manufacturers and asked them specifically, but to me, that's kind of what I've assumed was the issue. Was same thing you said, materials, especially because some of the raw materials that they need are imported, and we all know how the importation process is right now, and that
Yeah.
even applies to raw materials like reloading supplies. I mean, I commented to a guy the other day about the largest smelter in the U.S. closed down back in 2014. So I mean, that really kind of constricted some of the manufacturing, and now that they can't import stuff, I mean, that hits it even harder. And then, like you said, staffing levels, everybody knows right now it's hard to even get people to work. And then, the COVID restrictions put on businesses that might make it so they can't have as many employees and everything else. And yeah, it's just like you said, overall, it's like a really bad time for it right now.
Yeah, it was a mixture of everything and kind of like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Places got shut down, and then when they were allowed to open, they couldn't have their 100% workforce.
So what made you decide to get your 007?
We manufacture all of our own AIs here, and I really don't like the term manufacturer for the 07 FFL, because we don't actually create or machine or manufacture our ARs that we build here. We do in a sense to the ATF, but to us, I don't really call it manufacturing.
It's more of an assembly.
Yeah. So the ATF defines manufacturing of a firearm as when you take a pre-made or unmade receiver and you create it into a lock, stock, barrel firearm. So with that, because we wanted to build custom ARs, we had to get the 07 FFL, which also requires a marking variance. Marking variance is we had to get a marking variance approved by the ATF that states every time we create an AR and enter a firearm into commerce, that we had to engrave it somewhere on the firearm with our marking variance. So that say I took an AR bunch of parts and I built it up and I sold it. We'll say something went wrong with that AR. It was a 5.56 and the guy put a 300 blackout round in it, and the gun blew apart. My marking variance is going to ensure that that person can't go after the company of the lower I used.
Okay.
So that is the reasoning we had to get the 07, was because we wanted to be able to manufacture ARs. And even though we're only really assembling ARs based on custom specs, we still, by the ATF, it's considered manufacturing.
Right. And that's something that a lot of people I don't think understand is when you buy a completed firearm from a shop, whether it's from a manufacturer or someone like yourself, there's actually a tax on that called, I think it's an excise tax, if I'm correct, that is paid on that firearm. So when you buy a strip lower or you buy components as a consumer, there's no excise tax paid on that. But the minute it's a complete firearm, there's supposed to be an excise tax paid on that. So when you buy a complete firearm, that excise tax is already paid, but you as a manufacturer, so you actually have to pay that tax every year, don't you?
So the excise tax only applies when you've entered 50 or more manufactured firearms into commerce.
Okay.
So when I hit that 50 mark in a single annual period of manufacturing 50 firearms, then I have to pay an excise tax. I still have to report the number of firearms we entered into commerce every year.
Okay.
But until it hits over 50, then I have to pay that excise tax.
Gotcha.
If someone was to walk in here and buy a lower receiver from us and then bring it back a couple weeks later and say, okay, I want it built into a firearm, that technically is considered gunsmithing to the ATF.
Right.
If someone walks in here and says, I want to take this lower and put this barrel and all this, and I put it together, that's considered manufacturing. So there's kind of a gray area on it. I know of quite a few shops who kind of circumvent it and just will do the person's lower and then manufacture the firearm, because then it's considered gunsmithing and they only need the 01 FFL.
Mhm.
But we just decided we want to do the 07 because I'd like to be able to, build and manufacture ARs and have them on the shelf. But if someone comes in and wants something custom done, I can also do a custom AR.
So is your plan to eventually come out with your own line of ARs?
No, probably not.
Okay.
I think the AR market is flooded as it is.
No, it's pretty saturated for sure.
Yeah, there's any company out on the market now is building ARs. We just got in a Shytac CT15 AR.
Never heard of them.
Everybody go, well, the 408 Shytac.
Oh, Shytac. Yeah.
The M200 intervention rifle. And yeah, they started producing their own ARs now too. And it's everybody and their brother now makes ARs. So it's so hard to come out with a line of ARs and be able to explain to people, why ours is a better choice than other companies, when everybody just, I can go down to Dunham's and get the same thing for $700 and
Right.
it's just as good.
Yeah.
The term just as good grinds my gears.
Right. Well, one of the things I think I've kind of noticed from what I've seen from you too is when you assemble one for somebody, it's purpose built. Am I right?
Yep. We're very application specific.
And I personally think that's the way to go, unless you're just going to go out and, occasionally plink away at the range every now and then, or, something like that. To me, purpose built is the way to go. So let's say, for example, you had a customer walk into your shop and they wanted to do an AR for deer hunting. What would they be looking at, let's say, price wise as a ballpark, if you can do that?
So when somebody comes in and asks us, they want to have a custom AR done, my first question always is, what's your budget? We do have a minimum that we will go to for ARs. Like, guys walk in all the time and they go, I want a custom AR. And I'm like, hey, what's your budget? And they go, $700. And I'm like, unfortunately, with the standards of quality we have behind our ARs, that's unfortunately not feasible for us.
Yeah, it's better just go to Dunham's, like you said, or something else.
Exactly.
And grab something off the shelf.
Exactly. Buy something that's pre-built factory AR and just run with it. But we have a minimum of how, low in quality we will go. So my first question on someone who walks in, they say, I want an AR built. I always go, what is your budget? They'll usually explain to me, what their budget is. I have this to work with. And I go, okay, is that with or without an optic? It's without optic. And I'm like, okay, now what is your goal for the firearm? What do you want it to be able to do? Is it strictly predator hunting? Is it killing paper? Is it killing deer? What do you want this AR to be able to do? That will kind of tell me, one, my price range I can work with, which tells me how much I can splurge into certain parts. And then two, it will also tell me how it needs to be built, caliber, size, fixed stocks versus collapsible stocks, and how I'm going to go about building that firearm based on what they want it to accomplish. Guys that walk in here, since we're in northern Michigan above the rifle line, if they say, I want an AR-15 that I can do everything with. I want to be able to shoot deer. I want to be able to steal it, 800 yards. I want to be able to shoot coyotes. I 99% of the time will push them to a 6.5 Grendel. I think it's a great all-around use cartridge. somebody who's down in southern Michigan below the rifle line, I usually tell them, it's going to be hard to get a firearm that you're going to be able to do everything with. It's either going to be a 350 or a 450. That's where sometimes I'll tell guys, if you really want a 450 or 350 AR, let's do it. But if you want to be into the range where you want to be able to shoot deer and you want to shoot coyotes, but you really want an AR for coyotes, even though they're cheap, really like the CVA single shot 450s. They are simple. Don't have to worry about dragging it through trees and bushes. It's
a beater gun, kind
yeah,
of.
they only retail for like $230, I believe, but they are incredibly accurate. Single shots have been perfected for years. So I usually tell people like, hey, spend a couple $100 on this 450, put a nice piece of glass on it, then let's go into your AR for coyotes.
What I'm really hoping is now that Ruger picked up H&R, that they'll come out with a single shot based off like the H&R single shots that they used to have.
I've heard some rumors that Ruger is going to be creating a 450 lever gun.
They already have it out.
Yeah.
And they went away from the micro groove that Marlin was using and went to their traditional rifling. And they're saying so far the accuracy results have been really good.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see how Marlin does with being owned by Ruger now.
Yeah, me too.
I have a Marlin 336 Dark Series that I put the aluminum Midwest handguard on it and run my suppressor on it.
Tactical lever.
Yeah, if John Wick and John Wayne made an AR or made a lever gun.
Right. Yeah, I like I said, I'm hoping that Ruger will revise that H&R single shot line, because to me, that's kind of a niche that when H&R stopped producing those and went out of business or got bought out, whatever it was, the only other ones you have out there are like Rossi and the CVAs now. There's very few single shots out there unless you want to go like a Ruger #1 or something like that, which of course those are up there in the price line.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if a Ruger would revise that line from like the H&R partners and stuff like that. In my opinion, I think there's a niche to be filled there. So I'd like to see that. But in the meantime, I'm going to save my pennies for one of their new 4570 lever guns.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of that guide gun.
Yeah, the hard part you come into a 4570 is it's technically not legal in southern Michigan.
Right. I don't live in southern Michigan, so I don't have to worry about
it. That's where the 4570 is a hard sell, because
I wonder if they'll make that in a 450 or a 350. That might be pretty slick.
Yeah, that would be slick.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see that happen with the popularity of those two cartridges.
I know a lot of guys who run lever action 4570s and they just cut the case down.
I've heard of that too. I'm not sure about the legality on that, but I've heard of that too.
Technically, it's legal. It would be just considered a wildcat cartridge.
Okay, I'm not going to risk it myself, but hey, if someone else wants to, that's all more power to them.
Yeah.
So right now, going back to something you mentioned earlier, you said you would direct someone primarily towards like a 6.5 Grendel. Now, I know you use a 6mm Grendel or 243 LBC. What are your feelings on the 6.5 Grendel versus a 6mm arc? Because that one is starting to gain a lot of steam from what I've seen, and people that have it really like it. The biggest problem is ammo availability and options if you're using factory ammo, although you as myself are a reloader, so you have a lot more options. So what is your feelings on the 6.5 versus the 6mm Grendel or the 6mm arc?
The reason that I started off with 6.5, and when I built my 6.5, almost a little over 10 years ago now, I built my 6.5 Grendel. Hornady didn't even make ammo yet. It wasn't a SAMI spec cartridge.
Right. I was in the same boat.
I really, really liked the round because ballistically in an AR-15, I thought it was the best all-around do everything cartridge for an AR.
Mhm.
So I started off with a 6.5 Grendel, and I shot coyotes with it for many years during the daytime in southern Michigan. Then I was nighttime hunting with it. The hard part when I first built it is I built it and it was 13 pounds. So I would go through a weekend tournament with it, and after the tournament was done, I couldn't lift my shoulders above my head.
Need to hit the gym more, that's all.
Yeah, or 12-ounce curls. And then Cody had a 223 AR, and he wanted to get into something different. He was like me where I get bored after a while. Wanted to do something different. So I started doing some research and looking into some different things. And, there's 22 Grendels out there, and I built a 22 Nosler, which I did like, but it didn't really have the ass behind the cartridge I wanted. So then I started looking into the 6 mil Grendel, and I love the 6 mil projectile.
Mhm.
243 Winchesters, one of my all-time favorite for coyotes. 55 grain NBTs, there's 70 grain NBTs. That's the 6 mil bullet to me. The design of it is everything I like about projectiles.
Mhm.
So I found a barrel, custom barrels that were 6 mil Grendels. Pretty much take a 6.5 Grendel case, neck it down from 264 to 243, and I ran with the 70 grain NBTs, shooting just under 3,200 feet per second.
What length barrel is that with?
It's a 22 inch.
Okay.
That's with IMR 8208 powder. And it absolutely hammers coyotes. One of my absolute favorites. Cody loves his to death. It's going to be hard for me to ever switch from that. So when the 6 mil Arc came out a couple years ago after I had bought that, I'm like, okay, there's going to be factory ammo available for my rifle. Sweet. Nope.
Nope. Yeah, they changed it just enough there to
Yeah,
make
they
that.
bump the shoulder back a little bit so that I can't actually run that ammunition in my AR. Which, all right, cool. I reload anyways. And if somebody tells me they want to build an AR that is strictly for coyotes, I think the 6 mil Arc is a better choice for the cartridge. I don't necessarily like the factory ammo that's available yet.
Right.
I prefer that 70 grain range for my projectiles out of my 6 mil Grendel, whereas most of the stuff that's out for the 6 mil Arc right now, excuse me, most of the stuff that's out right now for the 6 mil Arc is in your 100 range.
Yep. Well, really, I think isn't Hornady still the only one that's producing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have what 107 and 100 and
103 and 107.
yeah. Which, like I said, the guys that I know that have been using it seem to like it, but the hand loaders that are doing like you are and going down to like a 70 grain bullet seem to be, really happy with it as well for predators.
Yeah, I do think that it flourishes for coyotes in that range. But if somebody told me they also wanted to be able to shoot deer with it, I would then push them towards the 6.5 Grendel. 120 grain Federal Fusion or 123 grain SSTs, and it will drop deer as proficient as a shooter as you are.
One of our guys, Mike Latroll, he actually has two now 6.5 Grendels, and he's been using them for deer, I think the past 3 seasons now, and he's been extremely happy with their performance just using that factory 123 Hornady Black.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's had only one deer that ran. Most of them go tops like 20 yards.
Yeah. I built a 6.5 Grendel for a gentleman who wanted to be able to take it out west and wanted to also shoot coyotes with it and shoot medium-sized game. And he took it out west to an outfitter, and they told him that it wasn't enough gun, and then he just lays waste to a mule deer at almost 200 yards.
Yep.
and they all said they were super impressed.
I took mine out west several years ago with Joe and shot my antelope at like 200 and I'll say it was 250, 260, somewhere in there. Worked like a champ. Of course, I beamed it in the head, so that helps, but
Yeah, that usually helps.
it worked really well.
Yeah,
That was using the 100 grain NBT.
yeah,
I've used that same load down south on hogs. I've used it on coyotes. It's not very fur friendly on fox, but it's still my all-time favorite round, and it's pretty much my go-to. So, what about AR-10? I'm guessing 243 is your preference on those.
yeah. I really do like the 243 and an AR-10. I built quite a few of them now. George runs one of them. I got a buddy who I built one for his dad. The thing with AR-10s is you don't really have a mil spec anymore.
Right.
You have variants. You got your DPMS variant, you got your SR25 variant. So they're a little more tricky. So usually when somebody comes in and they said they want an AR for coyotes, guys that want an AR-10, in my opinion, need to be able to put up the budget for it.
Oh yeah. I usually tell people it's going to run you double what an AR-15 would run you.
Exactly. You need good quality parts to handle the very major spike in pressure.
Yep. And I know a couple guys have done well. Myself and Randy Booty both have them in 260 Remington. I know Randy has at least one, if not two, Creedmoors. I know Jeremy Kennedy has a Creedmoor. Matter of fact, that Creedmoor that he got this year or end of last year. He's taken, I think, 4 or 5 deer with it, plus his bear this year. Been very happy with the performance out of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Josh Mapes, his 243. I think he would marry that thing if he could.
Yeah. Speaking of old Joshy, so that when he listens to this podcast,
A little teaser there for him. You can make that boy cry.
I'm holding your suppressor in my hands, buddy. I went and grabbed it out of the back room just for this. It looks gorgeous. You can't see it yet, but it looks gorgeous.
So, that's something that, I bought my first suppressor, trying to remember when that was. It was the first year that they made them pretty much legal in Michigan, which was a while ago now. I bought one the first year right off the bat, and I bought it, and I had a guy down in Spring Lake do the transfer for me. And he knew I was an FFL at the time. And he told me back then, even, he says, if you can get into this market, he says, I really recommend it because it's probably one of the fastest growing markets in the firearm industry at that time. And I think that's still pretty accurate. I think that market is just booming. So from what I understand, sometime between yesterday and the end of this month, they're supposed to start the new electronic version of the Form 4s, even e-filing.
Yeah, we did get an email saying that e-filing for Form 4s is going to be coming back. I'm skeptical because quite some time ago they tried it and it failed very miserably.
Really?
So I'm skeptical of seeing how it's going to work. I don't per se think it's going to super increase lead times like Form 1s are. Form 1s are average a month.
Right.
My first Form 1 I did was 29 days. Where it's going to help is like we're a kiosk dealer, the silencer shop kiosk. When somebody comes in and buys a suppressor, they do the digital fingerprints, the photo, the form, everything gets done via silencer shop in a kiosk. They don't have to get ink fingerprints done. They don't have to have passport photos taken. So it's one, cost saving to the consumer, and two, it's just a simplified process. The first few Form 4s we did here on paper form, that right after we got our SOT, I tell you, after filling out 3 copies of that form, my hand was hurting. I'm like, I got to get that kiosk sooner. I'm going to have carpal tunnel from writing out so many dang forms. It really does simplify the process. So I'm kind of curious, being a kiosk dealer, how it's going to help simplify the process more. And from what I understand, what it's going to help do for a kiosk dealer is the customer will still do the fingerprints and everything via the kiosk, the form. But instead of when Silencer Shop gets all the info for the Form 4 and then prints it out, when they mail it, first it goes to, I think, Oregon, and the form gets a check. It's like, hey, is everything filled out? Is everything here? Is everything done properly? The cash is checked, or the check is cashed. And then it gets mailed again across the country. So you're looking at, maybe a week from when they mail it. It gets looked at another week later, and then it takes another week of getting mailed somewhere else. What it's going to be able to do is it's going to cut that out.
Yeah, it'll be all electronic.
Yeah, it'll be, the customer will come in, they'll do the kiosk, the info will be submitted to the Silencer Shop, and Silencer Shop, I believe, will then be going in and inputting the info on the e-filing, e-forms website for the customer, and then it's boop, ATF's got it. So I'm still, that's my guess on how it's going to work. I'm still a little unsure on how it's all going to play into this, but whether or not it actually seems to work, I still think that even the longer wait time is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Guys will come into the shop and be like, I really want a can, but I don't want to wait 10 months. Big deal.
Right.
Once you get your first one, you will realize how important they are, and realize that the wait period, it sucks, but you will realize it was worth it.
I agree completely. Matter of fact, we did a podcast with Heath Baker that we posted up today, and I talked to him about that too, because I'm surprised it took him as long as it did for him to get into the suppressor game. And he commented, he said, "You can't believe the difference."
Oh yeah.
For one, it's hearing conservation, but two, even results in the field. He commented he was able to shoot 5 on a set, and he says there's no way he would have been able to do that without the suppressor. He says the other coyotes just stood there, after he shot the first one.
There's so many aspects to a suppressor that really are extremely beneficial to hunting. I mean, my first suppressor I built on Form 1, and I have 9 of them now. 22 cans, cans on my 270 bolt guns. I'm addicted to them.
Now, from a business standpoint, has that been a pretty busy market for your shop?
It ebbs and flows. We see tax season come around, and guys are dumping their tax returns on cans. So we see a super busy season, and then it lulls out, and then tax season comes back around, and it picks back up for a little stretch, and then lulls back out. But generally, yeah, we got our kiosk, and within that first year of getting our kiosk, we sold probably twice the amount of cans that we expected to.
Now, do you keep suppressors in stock?
We do. Yeah, we stock GSL and Dead Air.
Okay.
GSL is a Jackson, Michigan company. They make great cans. And then we also stock Dead Air because I believe they have some of the most versatile and some of the best designs on the market.
Well, because you guys have your SOT and everything else, have you guys had any business, I guess, with any of the other NFA items at all, like SBRs, full auto, anything like that?
Nothing full auto, couple SBRs. I have a few short barrel shotguns in the back right now. 95% of it's all suppressors.
Yeah. Like I said, that's it's the biggest market probably because it's most practical. I
Yeah.
mean, most of the guys that are looking for SBRs or full auto are guys that just want to have fun and, blast a bunch of ammo, or collectors and stuff like that. Whereas the suppressor is actually a practical addition to almost any firearm, really.
Yeah, I tell a lot of customers there's two things every hunter should have: a thermal scanner and a suppressor.
I can't argue with
Even
either one.
even deer hunters. The
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of the amount of thermal scanners we sell to guys that are just using them to track deer.
Hmm.
We've also sold a thermal scanner to a guy who's using it to detect heat behind drywall to see where the power cords are ran.
Sure.
So they both have a huge range of uses, and a lot of people don't know the hidden benefits of suppressors that you get. It's one of those things where I start talking to a customer and tell them, the suppressor doesn't just quiet down your firearm. It's got a list of things it's going to achieve and help with your firearm.
Hmm.
You have reduced recoil. You pick up velocity with a can. Right now, I'm in the process of cutting one of my 243 barrels down to an 18-inch. And reason being is the velocity I'm going to lose from that barrel, from going to a longer barrel, from a longer barrel to a shorter barrel, I'm going to pick back up once I put the can on. It's kind of an even wash.
Hmm.
It's called freebore boost.
Yep.
You have a projectile passing through a barrel that has propulsion via the gas behind it, but also has a drag factor as the projectile's passing over rifling. As soon as that projectile hits that suppressor, you still have your propulsion factor, but you have now eliminated your drag factor.
Right.
So that projectile then picks up that extra boost.
Yep.
So it allows you to use more ergonomic firearms as far as size. So you get freebore boost, you pick up extra velocity, you have the reduced recoil, you have the hearing safe aspect of it. I mean, the best part of a suppressor, I think, is, the sound of that bullet hitting a coyote is louder than the gun going
I love
off.
that.
Sounds like somebody standing in the middle of a field and kicks a watermelon.
Yep. Um, to that point you just mentioned about the velocity increase, have you actually chronoed any loads with and without a suppressor to see the difference in velocity?
Yeah, I have. I chronoed my 6 mil Grendel. Um, Without the suppressor, I was about 3,050-ish feet per second. With the suppressor, because I have a 22-inch barrel, I picked up about 100 feet per second.
So, that's what I
So,
found. That's what I found on my Grendel as well, because my hand loads for that 100 grain NBT were right around 28, 2,900. And when I chronoed it with a suppressor on it, I was actually pushing about 3 grand.
yeah, it depends on the projectile and the pressure and also the barrel length, but
Mm-hmm.
good average is roughly another 100 feet per second.
Mm-hmm. Which is awesome. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, especially for hydrostatic shock. I mean,
Yep.
it's going to push that projectile even faster without having to utilize the barrel to do it.
Right. So now you've been a hunter probably about forever. You've been coyote hunting now for how long?
Let's see. I started coyote hunting my freshman year of high school with buddies from high school. Only did it a few times with buddies from high school because mainly it was, a daytime thing. And then I went out with my dad in Irons, where we used to go to our deer camp, shot my first coyote, and after that, I was just addicted to it. Well, I got out of college and I linked up with TJ and we started going out on a regular basis. let's see, I graduated high school and I'm a young buck. So
Yep.
I graduated high school in 2011. So a little over 10 years. Yeah, a little over 10 years. So it was mainly some daytime stuff. And then luckily while I was still fresh into it, center fire at night got legalized. And then it was all I could think about.
And then it was on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You deer hunt too, right?
Yeah, being that I own an archery shop, it's my deer hunting time is very slim.
Mhm.
I've bow
Especially when it
hunted.
gets dark at 5:30.
Yeah, I've bow hunted 3 times in the past 6 years.
Oh wow.
I just pretty much I'll go out early antlerless rifle, opening day rifle, and late antlerless. And this year I shot an 8-point and a 10-point about an hour apart on opening day rifle. I'll shoot a couple does and then call it my deer season.
So now that you're up north, did you change what you use for deer season in terms of a firearm?
Yeah. So when I was down in southern Michigan and I was deer hunting, I built a 450 Bushmaster the year before 450 Bushmaster was legalized as a straight wall cartridge in the limited firearm zone. Built it in an AR. The plan was to go hog hunting with it with one of my college roommates, and built it well before that, and deer hunted with it a few times down there. Then, unfortunately, a little while after I built it, didn't have much luck as far as deer hunting down there with it because I just didn't have access to the greatest deer property. Moved up here and had no use for it anymore, and sold the 450 AR or the upper, and then I have a Seiko A7 270 that I
Okay.
use for up here.
You don't see a lot of Seikos around, at least I don't.
No, I'm a huge Tikka Seiko fan, and I very much love my Seiko.
I've seen several Tikkas come through my shop and they all seem to be pretty good rifles, but I don't know that I've ever really seen a Seiko. But yeah, they seem to be really good rifles. I mean, I've handled them before, just never had any come through my shop.
Yeah, the tolerance and the machining and the quality, it's incredible.
Hmm.
And I'm a quality and tolerances freak. I like everything to be perfect.
What caliber are you shooting?
The Seiko's a 270.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love the 270 Winchester. I think it's an all-around do everything great cartridge. I've shot deer at just under 500 with it. It absolutely hammers the crap out of them.
Do you have any access up by you for any long range shooting stuff?
There's a
You shouldn't be too terribly far away from Marksmanship Training Center.
no, it's not far at all. And then there's Center Shot, is it? Center Shot's got 1,000-yard outdoor access, but it's mainly police training.
Okay.
But there is the marksmanship range. Never been to either of them, but I
I've been
have a
I've been to MTC. I took one of their urban precision rifles courses there. And they actually have to just out over 1,000 there. That was my first time shooting that far. I mean, prior to that, the furthest I ever shot was probably 550 to 600 for prairie dogs. And that was using a whole lot of Kentucky windage on a target scope that just had a regular reticle and everything. So like, just walk the rounds in, you'll hit them. But MTC actually, the class I took there, and for the urban skills course, we only shot out to 600. So I haven't yet shot out to 1,000, but hopefully I plan on changing that. I really want to take my Grendel out there at 1,000 just to see what I can do with it. And then I really want to take my 50 out there and shoot it at 1,000.
Yeah. I have a private gravel pit that I get to shoot at. So
Oh, nice.
never done 1,000. I still haven't hit that 1,000 club, but My issue is just time.
Yeah.
I don't really get to. I used to have some nice long range setups and shot F class for a little while, and
Really?
Mhm.
What were you shooting in F class?
It was a beer league,
Okay.
so it wasn't an actual Michigan rifle series.
Okay.
It was just buddies. When I was at Field and Stream, we did our own little F class thing at his farm.
Okay. So if you could, for people that don't know what F class is, what is F class?
F class is like a medium range precision shooting. It's
Now,
not extreme distance.
when you shoot F class, are you shooting supported, prone, bench?
We shot pretty much prone,
Okay.
but ours was a little more lenient. We shot however the guys were comfortable. One of them would shoot off a lead sled, which he still gets shit for.
Cheater.
But yeah, 99% of it's prone.
Okay. They did, don't they do some unsupported though?
Yep, there's unsupported.
Which for someone that doesn't know, that's standing.
Yeah. There were a lot of people that would come shoot it at this guy's range that, the dude was a hand surgeon, and he would come into Field and Stream, and I could show him any new firearm that came in, and he'd be like, all right, I'll buy it. So he had a lot of buddies that would come out there and shoot it, older guys. And it was incredible that these older 60, 70-year-old guys would come out there and kick your ass with this mediocre rifle. And all the other people would be like, well, how is he doing that? We've got these $10,000 setups and he's still kicking our butt. Probably because that guy's been shooting that rifle for 30 years.
Yep.
It's all about how well you know your rifle.
There's an old saying, beware of the man that only has one gun.
Exactly. He knows everything about that firearm. He knows how it acts, what it does when the barrel heats up. That trigger pull to him is like a same sensation as a grumble in his belly.
Right. And there's something to be said for that. I like different guns. I have quite a variety of myself, and I like unique guns. And I shoot everything I own. I don't have any safe queens and all that, but I do have my favorites. Right now, like I said, my favorite's that 6.5 Grendel. I know that rifle very well in terms of the field use that I would expect to use it in. Prior to that, probably my favorite rifle, when I first started getting into deer hunting, was my old Savage 110 30-06. And I knew that one really well. When I wanted to shoot, if I was out shooting, trying to just squeeze little tiny groups out of it, I was shooting a Remington 700 VS in 308.
Yeah.
And, I think I made one of my most impressive target shots with that rifle, using 168 grain federal gold medal match. I put a 223 casing up on top of the berm at 100 yards and shot it and drilled a hole right through the middle of it. I still got the casing. It was funny because I actually thought I missed. I said, yeah, I just hit the, frame and knocked it down, whatever. I had my buddy with me and we went down there to look, and sure enough, we found that casing and perfect 308 hole right through the middle of that casing.
Yeah, feels good.
I don't know if I could ever do it again, but I did it once and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, it's, you spend enough time with a rifle and you're going to become competent with it. You're going to become proficient with it. And that's only going to increase your success, whether it be hunting, target shooting, or whatever. So,
yeah.
I think that's a big factor of a lot of it, is being familiar with your equipment.
Put the time behind the trigger.
And now it's hard for people to do that just because of ammunition availability.
Yeah. I would, when I lived down south still, and I lived with my parents before I moved up north, and excuse me, before I moved up north and moved in with my wife, I would sit down in the basement, watch TV, and dry fire my trigger. put a snap cap in and sit there and dry fire my trigger.
That's-
Mainly I was bored, but
Yeah, but that being said, that's the most economically efficient and the best practice you can do for any firearm is good live fire practice because it doesn't cost you anything and it really allows you to see where you are screwing up if you're paying attention.
yeah,
You know, I mean, are you pulling your trigger and you can watch that gun move? You know, if you're pulling to the right, if you're dipping, if you're dropping, not only that, but you develop muscle memory and everything else. Especially, I recommend that a lot to people with handguns is, you know, good repetitive dry fire practice. I mean, even practicing your draws, you're cycling the weapon and then straight up dry firing, you know, I mean, it's a great way to get good practice that will only improve your performance at the range or in the field.
yeah. When I worked at Shooters in Traverse City, I would do some shooting lessons with people in the indoor range there, and trigger pull was the most crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Tell people, you know, you're sitting at home on the couch, grab your handgun, obviously make sure it's unloaded.
Right.
Um, the simple trick of balancing a quarter on your front sight post and
Yep.
pull the trigger without it falling off. Not only is that going to help your handgun skills, but it's going to help your rifle skills.
Yep. And another thing too that you can really emphasize with dry fire practicing is your follow through,
Yep.
which that becomes a big issue for a lot of people too. I went through a stretch on that when I was first doing a lot of predator hunting in the daytime. I went on a streak where I missed 10 coyotes in a row straight up. And I mean, it was devastating to me. And I scratched my head for a long time trying to figure out why I was making those misses. And I ended up narrowing it down to it was my follow through. I was so excited to see that coyote dead in the field that instead of staying on the scope after I pulled the trigger, I was peeking up from the scope. So I just had
Yep.
really piss poor follow through.
Yep.
And that was all offhand. So then I realized, hey, I need to get something better. So I went to some shooting sticks. That improved things. Then we got into the night game. Of course, now I shoot off a tripod most of the time at night. But during the daytime, I still shoot off shooting sticks.
Yeah, people don't realize that picking your head up before the shot is done is the worst thing you can do.
Yep.
Not to mention when you put your head back into your stock, your eye box changes.
Yep.
I know guys that, you know, will talk to me here at the shop and they're testing reloads and like, I can't find anything to work. And I ask them, what are you doing when you're shooting? Are you, you get into your, bench and you get into your firearm, you shoot, and then what do? Well, I shoot and then stand up and look through the spotting scope. I'm like, there.
You're losing consistency.
Exactly. You need to reduce any errors possible. Grab your rounds if you're shooting 5-shot group, set them right next to you where your offhand can reach them, and do not move your head off of that stock.
Yep.
Shoot, next round. Shoot, next round. Then pick up your head and look through your spotting scope.
Right.
I mean, simple little factors like that can greatly increase your outcome.
Absolutely. Do you have an indoor shooting range there then?
Just archery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
just archery here. We have our 20-yard archery range and then one of the dart video screens.
Okay. Now, do you guys run any leagues or anything like that there?
Yeah, we run winter leagues. We'll have a 5-spot Vegas league, traditional league, and then we do a video league.
Oh, cool. So since you have your own business, you like the ARs, what's your dream gun right now?
Dream gun.
Yeah. What's your unicorn you're looking for?
Oh, um, mainly since I'm an AR guy, um, I've been on a few year stretch of Hodge Defense. I don't know if you're familiar with who Jim Hodge is.
Mm-mm.
Jim Hodge is the mad genius mastermind behind a lot of patented technology in the AR industry. So Mega Arms, BCM, I mean, this guy used to work for many companies and finally decided he wanted to do it on his own. So Hodge Defense, they make their own ARs. The military got a hold of Jim and they're like, we want you to build us an AR and we want to test it and see how it would do, the AU Mod 2. And so we did. And they're like, well, we can't do the price point. But then they showed that AR to all these other companies, like, this is what you need to do. He's got some of the best patented designs on the market for how a handguard attaches to a barrel nut via, pinch lock, S lock. He was the mad genius behind wedge lock for Mega Arms. The dude is a engineering innovation genius. And his AR parts are extremely hard to come by. There's only a few drops every year. And they go within minutes. So you're, waiting for that email, that notification that such and such is back in stock. By the time I grab my phone, I'm about 20 minutes too late.
And it's sold out already.
Yeah. So very interested in getting some parts from Jim Hodge. He uses FN cold hammer forged barrels, chrome moly vanadium steel. They're it's all incredible quality. If I wanted a shit hit the fan rifle, there's very few companies I would use. And there's very few companies in general that I will ever buy a factory AR from.
Mm-hmm.
That is mainly just because of parts and the hidden qualities put into them that most people don't know.
I agree. Speaking of which, do you have much demand for handguns up there?
Yes and no. I mean,
You have many revolver shooters?
not really.
Say, if you ever have a guy looking for a very unique revolver, do yourself a favor sometime and look up Silver Creek Firearms.
Uh-huh.
They're actually right here by me. Have you ever seen them?
I've seen one of them, had one
Okay.
transferred up into Traverse City, but
Oh, you did? Okay.
never actually looked at it a whole lot. And
I went and visited their facility and got to handle them and check them out and everything. They make almost everything in-house. 357 stainless revolver. They are nice. They have a heck of a price point. They're expensive, but they are really nice. If you know of anyone that's looking for a nice custom, not run-of-the-mill revolver. Rumor is they were going to work on trying to come up with a lever action and a shotgun that match it as well, which
yeah,
an all stainless steel shotgun seems awfully heavy to me. Same thing with the lever action, but I'd be interested to see what they come up with.
yeah. If you run out of bullets, you can use it as a bat.
Right, right. If you can swing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I've actually wanted to do for a long time, is actually use a handgun for hunting. I had a 44 mag Super Blackhawk for a while with an 8-inch barrel, and my plan was to throw an optic on that and use it for hunting. Then I carried it as a backup gun in bear country over in Wyoming for a day, and I decided, screw this. That thing's too damn heavy.
Yeah.
So I still have a goal right now. The next firearm that's probably on my list, if it's not that lever action 4570, is probably a good 44 mag in a revolver, but probably something like a 5-inch barrel. I don't really feel I need an 8-inch.
Yeah.
That being said, I was at our local range this weekend and I seen a revolver I've never seen before. It was a Smith & Wesson Silhouette 44 mag. And it had, I think, a 10-inch barrel on it, some really cool trick adjustable front sights on it, adjustable rear sights on it. And I was shooting a rifle a couple benches over, and I was shooting at 200-yard steel target, just dinging away, checking function of the rifle. And I see this guy pick up the revolver and he gets over on the bench and he rests it on the sandbag and boom. And I hear that steel plate at 200 yards get smacked. I'm like, I look over there for a second. I'm like, Ah, he shoots again. Smack. I'm like, what the heck are you shooting over there? So of course I had to go over and check it out. And I've never seen one of those before, but I tell you what, they were using some hand loads with I think a 230 grain like wad cutter. And he could, even with open sights, he was regularly smacking that steel plate at 200. I was impressed.
You sure it wasn't Jerry Mitchell?
No, it wasn't Jerry McEachern. It was actually another local guy, but I was impressed. I mean, yeah, I've seen what Bob London and Jerry Mikulik do some pretty impressive stuff with a 44 mag. I don't remember if it was Jerry or Bob were shooting balloons at 600 yards with a 44 mag in open sights with like a 4-inch barrel. I was
Yeah.
like, holy cow. So like you have, it's funny because even today, you still see people that claim, well, it's a short barrel. It can't be accurate. It has to be a long barrel to be accurate. And I try and tell people, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And especially in a handgun, I'll reference something like that. But also, if you look at bench rest shooters, they don't favor a long barrel. And those guys, even though it's more or less strictly mechanical, I mean, I had, well, I was talking to Randy Booty. He used to shoot bench rest, and he's like, if you have a group over like 0.2, you're out of the running. But a lot of those guys don't favor long barrels. They want a shorter barrel because of the better barrel harmonics. You get less vibration and quote unquote barrel whip out of a shorter, stiffer barrel, which contributes to accuracy more. But you still have people out there say, oh, you need a barrel this long to be accurate. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Barrel length influences velocity more
Yep, exactly.
more
You
than
might
it
get a
does
flat,
accuracy.
yep, you might get a flatter trajectory, but it's not necessarily going to be any more accurate.
Yeah, and guys that are shooting bench rest, they're not worried about velocity. They don't need to kill that steel target more dead.
Nope, all they need to do is penetrate the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I've never done. I mean, I'm actually one of the local ranges here is home to the Michigan Bench Rest Shooters Association. And I went out there before and watched some of those guys and seen what they do. And I mean, it's cool. Like I said, it's mechanical though. When I shoot, I try and, I mean, obviously people like to shoot small groups and have fun with that. I get that, but I think of my rifles as more of a tool for hunting or, you know, when I shoot, I've shot 3-gun, I've shoot American Confederation of Tactical Shooters and I'm a hunter. So when I think of my guns, that's along the lines of what I'm thinking for usage. I'm not sitting down behind a bench and just trying to poke tiny holes in paper at 100 or 200 yards, even though, you know, when I reload, that's always my goal. Some guys like to chase that velocity. I don't. I shoot to develop all my loads for accuracy and then know what that round will do, but I don't care about the velocity.
No, I don't. When I reload, it's about accuracy. It's not about whether I can get the cost per round down or I can push that projectile as fast as possible. I want the tightest groups I can create. Because if you can shoot like a half MOA and then you shoot a MOA rifle, there's very little window on a small target like a coyote, which is average 19 inches tall,
Or a fox.
or a
Even smaller.
fox, to where any little bit of error, the larger your grouping is in your firearm, it's going to result in more misses.
Yep.
So the more I can reduce that error and make ethical shots, the better, in my opinion.
I
And
agree.
mainly because my 6 mil Grendel, you can't buy factory ammo.
Right. And you know, that's one thing I always say too. If I miss, I can't blame it on my gun and my load
Yeah,
because I've taken the time to prove that out to know what it's capable of. So unless something hinky is going on, it's all on the loose nut behind the trigger. It's
yeah,
not anything to do with the gun or the load.
yeah, exactly.
And you know, I like having that confidence behind it. And every now and then you'll have something go hinky and you're like, okay, what did I do wrong? Now let's go back to the fundamentals, work on things, get back to where I need to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that talk to me about ARs that say stuff like, you don't need a 800 or 900 or $1,000 barrel. Why do you have $1,000 barrel? I want my stuff to work.
Right.
I want to know that if I miss a coyote, it was by sheer my error.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny too, because going back to like we were talking about the cost of a build, you look at, let's say for example, what Dunham's was running a special, before all this crap hit of like I think it was a DPMS Oracle. They were selling them for like $4.99. And a guy comes to you and says, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I'm like, "Well, if you want to just go out and shoot water jugs at 50 yards and stuff like that, more power to you.
Yep.
It's the best option for you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but if you want something nice, you're going to pay as much for just the barrel as you will that whole gun building something nice."
Yep.
so, uh, so I see you got your new headgear on. So why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I don't like to hold my thermal anymore because it sucks. So I talked Jay into getting into the helmet setup, which this one's a little loose right now because I don't have a hat on. But I was tired of holding my thermal. I mainly scan my right eye. I hold my thermal my right eye. I've had shoulder surgeries on my right shoulder. And after a full night of hunting, my right shoulder was killing me. My back would kill me. So I wanted to figure out a way to try and relieve some of that so I could hunt longer without being in such discomfort. So I wanted to dive into the helmet setups, and it took a lot of asking questions and a lot of research in this and that to figure out what worked. I was new to it, and I talked Jay into it. We got helmets. We're Wilcox Industries dealers, so we can get the Wilcox G24s and G11s and 22s and the actual mount that flips and flips out. So we have our helmets. We have the Wilcox G24, which is a breakaway mount that flips down, it flips out. It's got incredible adjustment every which way to it. The breakaway style mount to it is if you were to smack it on something extremely hard, it takes quite a bit of force that it would actually pop off. I mean, I'm still getting used to the thing. It's like being a unicorn and having something stick out in front of your head because I smacked it right on the freaking door jamb the other day.
Uh-huh.
They swing my head through the door and wow. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but we have the Skeet IR single arms with the shoe attachment. And then we actually run the iRate MH25 thermals, which are a 12 micron 640 resolution, 25 germanium lens. They run a single CR123 battery, but we use the Anchor Power Core 10,000 milliamp hour, the what is it, Power Core Plus external power supply that can run the scanner off, a full night without any issue, even in cold temps. And then it doesn't have recording capability. We had to put a PVS 14 eyepiece on them so that with the thermal not directly touching your eye, but a little farther off, it would actually enlarge the screen to your eye.
Okay.
We've only had one debut run with them so far. So far I love it. I put a winter hat on under it. I throw it on.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I got them a little bigger in size because I wanted to be able to have a hat on underneath it and still not have it flop around.
Mm-hmm. So
It was definitely a nice change.
2 questions for that. One, how much does that setup weigh on your head? Do you know?
Let's find out. I played hockey for 8 years, so it's probably no different than wearing a hockey helmet.
Yeah, they look real similar.
Yeah.
except no visor. Of course, back then you probably didn't have visors anyway, did you?
Well, we had cages.
Okay.
Let's see. These have the 70 grain lead weight, counterweight in the back. Just about 4 pounds.
That's not bad.
No,
Now,
I mean, I wore it around the shop for a little while before my thermal got here to try and get my neck used to it.
mhm.
I would walk around with it on, and customers would walk in and look at me like, "What in the hell are you doing?"
Right. What kind of a shop did I just come into?
Yeah.
So then the next question is, how much does a setup like that cost?
The helmet is anywhere from 2 to 3. The Wilcox G24, the mount setup, you're looking at maybe 700 to 800. The iRay Mini MH25 retails for 4. And then there's probably almost another $100 in the Anchor Power Core battery and the counterweight.
So you're looking at roughly $5,000.
Yeah, you're looking at about $5,000, which is relatively the same price as
A really good scanner.
quality scanner. Yep. And these are incredible quality scanners. I mean, they are insanely clear.
So after wearing that for a while, did you get any discomfort from the straps to hold it steady or just having it on much?
No, the only discomfort I had was, the straps on my beard. I had to trim it down a little bit.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So Ron Brimmer couldn't wear one very well, probably.
No, it would look. He looked like he had a beard coming out of his, coming out of the bottom of his neck down
He
here.
would look kind of like a 70 bikinis ad.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
Oh, that was horrible.
I definitely enjoy it a lot. My issue has always been I have my rifle on a sling on my back. I carry my tripod in my right hand, and I have my call in my left hand. If I needed to stop and scan,
That's a
I
lot of
had to
stuff to jungle around.
I had to set my tripod down and pick up my scanner, look around, figure out, okay, I know where I'm at, or I had to rely on Jay. Jay had the free hand to hold his scanner up, and now I get out of the truck, I drop the scanner down. I can walk with my hands full and still be able to see what I'm doing, navigate easily. And then when we're on set, I have a chest rig I wear as well that holds my Fox Pro remote in it. And I can just kind of sit there and turn my head and look around with my hands in my pockets.
Mm-hmm.
I need to change my volume or my sound on my remote. I can just reach a hand out and pull the remote out of the chest rig, but it was super comfortable.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like
Definitely.
it. I can definitely see the advantages of it.
I know a lot of people who either run dual thermals, or I got a couple buddies that hog hunt who run thermal left eye and like Gen 3 filmless white phosphorus tube right eye.
See, now I read something about that. Someone asking about doing that, if it really kind of messes with your, basically kind of messes with your mind because you're looking through two different things.
You get really used to it very quick.
Really?
The reason these guys do it is they're driving around in vehicles scanning fields for hogs.
Sure.
They have an IR illuminator mounted to the front of their vehicle. The night vision tube will they can look through their window.
Yep. With thermal.
While with their window rolled down, they can scan with thermal out of their window with their left eye and still see they're driving with their right eye.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's night vision tubes require some very in-depth knowledge, or even just getting hold of the right people.
Right.
there's a lot that goes into night vision tubes and knowing what to pick.
Yep. I've actually been kind of kicking around the idea of a night vision head setup just because it's cheaper to get into than, a thermal setup. And I was looking at, white phosphorus versus the other one, which I don't remember off the top of my,
Green.
green phosphorus. Have you used both?
I have looked through both. A lot of people say that white has a better contrast and clarity. I wasn't able to tell a difference.
Okay.
90% of our military are transitioning to white.
Mm-hmm.
But I have looked through both. If I was probably to do it, I would prefer white because it's a little more, a little closer to thermals.
Mm-hmm.
I scan thermal white hot, but then I shoot weapon sight as black hot.
Okay.
So I think the white phosphorus is a little more easier on the eyes and not too confusing when you
Okay.
have white phosphorus.
Sure. When you switch back and forth, makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of it just depends on what tube you get. I mean, good quality tubes, if you want something that's, is going to be a good tube without knowing 100% of the info, it's just get a mil spec tube.
Mm-hmm. Which mil spec now is still 3rd gen?
Mil spec is Gen 3 filmless.
Okay.
Yep, there's filmed and there's filmless. There's not a lot of companies that make film tubes still, but Gen 3 filmless.
Okay.
Mil spec is, the government has a specification, obviously, mil spec of what they say is the lowest quality they want, whether it be, how much EBI it has, the background noise, its time to turn on, how long it takes for that tube to turn on. So there's a few little things that determine whether it's a mil spec tube, but if you're buying a mil spec tube, you're getting something that's at least decent.
Right.
But definitely filmless.
All right. Well, I know it's getting later in the evening. I don't want to take up all your evening. I know you have to get back to your family, so we'll wrap it up here real quick. Anything else you want to add?
Not really. Just
Okay.
watch out for the Great Lakes Region Predator Challenge. I'm coming for you.
I think we're getting ready to sign up for that ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love tournament season. Not so much, the actual tournament aspect of it. It's just going down and seeing everyone,
I agree.
saying hi, and being able to see a whole bunch of people you talk to online and talk to on Facebook, and you get to meet them in person and see them in person. And I was talking to Cody the other day, and I told him if you guys ran a tournament and had no payout whatsoever, I would still do the tournament
Yep.
because I just like seeing the people.
I do too. I agree. It's nice to, like you said, connect with people that you only talk to on Facebook, meet new people, get together, swap stories. It's a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing the GLRPC. Gosh, I don't even know how many years I've been doing it. It's been a while. And I always tell people, I say, I really don't care if I win or not. I mean, that's just icing on the cake. I just enjoy getting out with my friends, hunting, talking to people, having a good time. Matter of fact, half the time, by the time I'm done with a tournament, I feel so worn out. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? But, when I'm there at the weigh-in or, before we release, it's just nice to talk to everybody and see what everybody's got going on and connect. I agree. It's definitely a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Excited to see some faces.
Are you guys going to do any of the other ones other than GLRPC?
We'll probably do Eric's tournament again.
Okay.
The hard part is just time for us.
Right.
I mean, we really only have enough time for a couple tournaments a year, and
you know how to fix that, don't you?
yeah.
You just need to hire someone else to take your spot at the store.
Yeah, if I could find someone that wanted to work at this shop that didn't want $21 an hour starting,
right,
and a sign-on bonus.
Yep. And would actually show up
for someone who has never touched a bow in their entire life, but loves the hunting industry, we had a guy do that. We were trying to hire help and got a hold of us and said he wanted to apply. And I'm like, well, let's talk because we need help. This was last year when we were slam busy. And he's like, I want a sign-on bonus and I'm looking for $21 an hour and I want all major holidays off. And I'm like, this isn't the job for you, buddy.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well,
It's tough.
thanks for joining us tonight, Mitch. And
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on.
it's good time talking to you as always. And have fun at the store, and we'll probably see you at the tournament.
Sounds good. If you ever need anything in the meantime, as far as AR parts, just give me a shout.
All right, will do. Thanks, Mitch.
All right, we'll see you, Kevin.